Alright, hello folks. In this video we're going to be continuing the project of pulley swapping this thing to make it go faster. In the last video we got about 9 miles an hour out of it and the clutch just wasn't working very good. So in this video we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. We're going to be putting a bigger pulley on the back. It originally came with an 8-inch pulley, so then I put a 4-inch on it. And now I think I'm going to go with a 6. And I'll get to the hole in the back in just a second. And then on the crankshaft, we're going to get a bigger pulley to increase the gear ratio. And so here's the factory crankshaft pulley. There's 2 of them, of course. The one on the bottom is for the blade, and that one we'll leave alone. And the top one is for the drive, and this one was what we're going to be changing. So it's all one piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut right up here, right below this thing. Kind of cut this off and then buy a separate pulley that's the right size we want for this, slide it on the crankshaft, and then slide this one underneath it and bolt it all and sandwich it all together. Basically it should work just fine. And then for the rear I ended up cutting an axis. Well, here first I took off there was an axis panel on here supposedly. That was like this. So I took it off hoping to get access to the pulley, and then there was just nothing. It was just all covered up. And I was like, dude, that's useless. You can only get into the battery, which you can just get into already from under the seat. So I just decided to cut a hole in the back here, and now we can actually get in here and swap pulleys without having to pull the entire axle out, which is going to be very convenient. So yeah, this is pretty thick as well. It's like 1/8-inch steel. So this thing is super solid, and this did not compromise the structural integrity of it at all. I don't think anyways. But yeah, we're ready to, once those pulleys come, I ordered one on Amazon because the local hardware store doesn't make 1-inch pulleys in 5. Doesn't make pulleys for a 1-inch shaft. But we'll also get one for here, and this should give us a lot more power transfer with bigger pulleys overall. You can see down in there, the part that slides over the shaft only goes down to about here. And then the rest of it is just, well, you're meant to put a bolt that goes all the way up in here. And then the crankshaft just goes in this top part. So we're gonna need to cut off really close to the bottom of this pulley, so that way we can get as much on the crankshaft as possible. So I think I'm gonna try to squash this pulley in the vise, so that way I can get in here better. All right, well, a lot of cutting and grinding later, we don't have a pulley anymore. So now, I'll wait till we get the pulley we're gonna use, put it on, get it lined up right, and then figure out where we need to cut this. But for some reason, the key in there is the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. It has a built-in key, but it's so tiny, it's barely a ridge at all. Yeah, you can kind of see it in there. It's like also bumpy. It's weird. Anyways, there's what we have. So yeah, we'll wait for parts and then continue with progress. All right, so here's the new pulley we'll be using. It's a 6-inch pulley, and the last one was a 4-inch. So this should work pretty good. Now, I'm a little concerned by the absolute utter lack of material they put on this thing. I mean, this is a zinc casting, so it's already not that strong, and then they only put these tiny little supports. So hopefully it'll handle the horsepower. I think it should, hopefully. We'll see. Anyways, this access panel should make it a lot easier. Hopefully I can get this thing in without even having to drop the axle out of it. Yeah, you won't be able to see in there very good. So coming from underneath, yeah, it'd be useful if this thing was jacked up so I could actually see what I'm doing here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna jack it up anyways, just so I can get in there a little easier. Yeah, you can see in there. Okay. I cannot see what I'm doing with this camera here though. So I'll let you know when I get that pulley on because it won't be a very good view. All right, so we got it in, and this belt doesn't fit. I just have it on there for testing purposes, or for demonstration purposes, but I even installed this this little guard here, and I bent it up so that way it'd be close to the belt. It's not touching, but it's pretty close, so that way if the belt, when it gets relaxed, when you're not pushing, or when you are pushing the clutch in, it won't pop off, hopefully. Because this isn't a very deep, the belt doesn't sink in there at all. Whereas with the old pulley, wherever it is here, it has quite a wide lip, so that way the belt doesn't fall off easily. But hopefully that should keep that from happening. Looks pretty good. Now we're just waiting on the front one. All right, so the pulley for the crankshaft came in the mail. So we'll now be able to put this thing on. So it's a cast iron pulley, pretty heavy. It is a 5.7, 5¼ inches in diameter, and it's of course for a 1-inch shaft. So this hopefully will give us the kind of gear ratio we want and allow us to run a bigger pulley in the back so the clutch doesn't slip. If you can't tell, this engine has quite a bad oil leak, so that's why I have cardboard under there, because it kind of drips everywhere. I really need to swap this engine out with the one that came on the other mower, because it's a better engine, I think. It's not as worn out, and hopefully it doesn't have as much oil leaks, because this one's pretty bad, but we can run with it for right now. All right, the pulley is on. I'll let you know when I get the belt on, if it fits, if one of the belts I have actually fits, and when I got it all ready to go, and then we'll test it out. All right, so it's a couple days later, and basically we've been having trouble finding the correct belt. So that night when I was trying it out, it was late, and we tried the original belt, and it was too big, and I somehow managed to get it routed around one of the keepers, the belt keepers, to where it would work, just barely, and we were able to drive it around a little, but it was so dark it wasn't worth filming. And yeah, we chewed up this belt real bad. I mean, it started smoking a ton. I knew that would happen. I didn't care about this belt because it was the wrong size anyways. But anyways, today we went out and got the correct one. So the correct size, I believe. It was $50 at O'Reilly's Auto Parts. At Ace Hardware, the belts there are like $15 for the same length, but they didn't have the right size. It's ridiculous. $50! But anyways, I guess you gotta pay to play. So you can see under here, this is with the clutch fully in, or sorry, with the clutch fully released. And then if we push in the clutch, you can see it gets pretty loose, which is what you want. And then it gets tight when you release the clutch. But we still have quite a bit of room left on the clutch pedal. So it's not like, it could probably do to be a tiny bit looser, but I don't know. I think this will work just fine. We'll have to see. As long as it doesn't try to grab when it's just sitting there idling, and you have the clutch in, so you can actually shift gears, you know. Oh, no wonder it's surging. There's no gas. Man, this thing's an absolute gas hog. I feel like I dump in a quarter gallon every time, and then I run it for like 10 minutes and it's gone. Hey, what do you film? This engine's got some bad oil leaks. It burns oil. It's pretty much junk. Thankfully, we have an engine. Next video you see on that mower, we'll be swapping this engine into it. I already pulled it out so it's pretty much ready to go. And this engine I think is in better condition. All right, well, let's test this thing out, see how fast it goes. Smells normal. Yeah. Let's take a look in here. Looks pretty good to me. It feels a little bit faster than before. I would say probably about 10 or 11 miles an hour if I had to guess. We'll see. Oh yeah. Took those ugly headlights off. It's still missing the original. Next, I think this thing's got to go. Looks terrible. I don't know. If you can hold the camera. Let's start on by third. I gotta hold on to you. So 3 miles an hour in third. Go to full throttle. Whoa. Not gonna fall. I'm gonna shift now. 4 in third. 7 in fourth. Unfortunately, the footage cuts out here. I'm very disappointed, but Anthony accidentally clicked the stop recording button on my phone, so you'll just have to trust me that it went 11 miles an hour, I think. Yeah, it went 11 miles an hour in 6th gear, which is 2 miles an hour faster than it went before, which was 9 with the other pulley setup. So yeah, it's pretty good top speed, if you ask me. The belt. See if it's like hot. It's warm, barely. Feel the diff. The diff's warm a little bit. It's like barely warm. It's definitely not hot at all. So we're not going to be like tearing up the rear end too much because we're not going that fast. I saw 11 miles an hour, and that was probably like barely 11 miles an hour. All right, well, I was using the mower to actually do some work. I was pulling around this chain link fence that I have hooked up with some rocks and junk on it, grading the trail, and it was working pretty good, actually. I was quite impressed, but then the engine started running bad, and I was like, okay, is it running out of fuel? No, there's not a ton in the tank, but there's like an inch in the bottom, which is plenty enough to run fine. But then I look in here, and it's just like sucking in a lot of oil from the crankcase vent. So I'm thinking it's fouling out the spark plug. Like I can't even get it to start back up. Let's see here. choke. Nope. Yeah, you can see there's oil and junk down in there. So yeah, I turned the fuel off because I was wondering if it was also getting flooded out. Oh, well, you know what? That's an issue. What? How'd the spark plug wire pop off? I bet you it'll start now. Let's see here, shall we? Well, I guess that's what that was. Okay. So yeah. Ow. Sticker. Okay, maybe I got it idling a little too low, but I'll show you some footage of it grading the trail. It does a pretty good job. I just keep it in the lower gears so that way it doesn't burn up the belt, because then it doesn't put much load on the belt. This engine, we're definitely going to be engine swapping it in the next video, because this thing is quite a pig. It goes through fuel and it don't make much power, and it leaks oil everywhere. I mean, just look at this mess. It's constantly just puking out oil from this thing and probably the crankshaft, main seal, because it's always dripping down the crankshaft. And then over here on the valve cover, the little side cover, valve cover thing, it's dripping oil everywhere. So it's just leaking all the time. You'd be having to add oil a lot, leave spots all over the garage floor. But yeah. There's probably like 100 pounds of junk on here. Ah, he's not heavy enough. He's not quite heavy enough to give it full traction. Flower. Right, stop, dude.
tire. Very dusty. Holy cow. Super dusty. Doing donuts. Oh, I get it.
So bouncy.
Yeah, sure.
It cannot be good for the deck bouncing around like that.
Can't be good for nothing.
Yeah, it'll do a one-wheel burnout. Donut, I guess. Now, we're gonna fix the blade pulley. Because right now there's only the drive pulley on there. We need the blade pulley also on there. So I guess we'll work on that now. Okay, so what we need to do, this is the pulley we're using to drive the wheels, and this is the one we're gonna be using to drive the belt, or the blades, I mean. You can see that this one looks bigger, but the belt actually sinks down in here a ways, whereas this one, it rides higher. So this one is a higher ratio, but anyways, that doesn't matter. So what we did, I put this on here at the height I want it on the shaft. Then I measured the amount of shaft sticking out of the bottom, and it was 1 3/8 of an inch, 1 3/8 inches. And then we measured down in here as far as the shaft will go down in here and it's 3.5 inches exactly. So what we need to do is measure down 3.5 inches. So the bottom is right here. So from this point up now, we measure 1 3/8 inches. And that brings us about to just barely above this seam right here where they welded the pulley on, the old pulley. So just a little bit above that. So that's where we're gonna shoot for, is cutting it right here. And then that should give us enough space to put the thing on. And then we'll also put a spacer on top of this pulley so that way it sticks out the right amount. All right, so let's see if we can't cut this thing. We want to cut as evenly as possible so when it presses against the bottom of that pulley, it presses evenly. Okay, so we're going to cut it with the reciprocating saw. Not a very exact way to cut it. Ideally, you'd use like a lathe or something, but I definitely don't have access to that. So this will have to work, and then we'll clean it up on the bench grinder to get it as even as possible. All right, so here's what it looks like. All right, so pretty good. It's a little on the short side actually, but that's okay. It'll work fine. It's also pretty even as well. I'll clean it up on the bench grinder a little bit. All right, so we got it in here. So there's a bolt on the bottom of here that goes up into the shaft, and that's tightened down. I tightened it down with the impact. I also tightened up the set screws on this one. I decided not to put a spacer on the top because I just don't think it needs it. I think this will be plenty sturdy enough. But this looks great. I think this worked out really good. So now all that's needed to do is put the belts back on, and we should be good to go. All right, well, we got all the blades back on, or all the belts back on. Time to test it out and make sure the blade works correctly. I don't know why it wouldn't, but... All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. We got this thing pulley swapped the proper way, so that way the belt will actually work correctly and the clutch will work correctly, the belt doesn't slip, and it goes pretty fast, 11 miles an hour in top gear at full throttle, and it still goes plenty slow enough in first gear to actually cut grass effectively. So, thank you for watching. Keep an eye out for the next video on this mower in which we will be engine swapping it. And I will see you next time.